basically with anything that requires, if you come to our stand, we have 3 different shampoos, we have 4 or 5 different waxes. Here you have paste wax.
Yeah.
This is a paste wax for your leather.
Okay, so we're going to break the leather and the plastic trims around the leather into kind of 2 separate bits. So for the plastics, we're going to use the heavy duty multi-purpose cleaner. We'll get onto that in a second. But for the seats, the leather seats, we're going to be using the individual leather and vinyl cleaner. In order to apply this product, we're going to be using the detailing mitt. Right, Mr. Dale, how do we do this? Help?
What you need to, because we're working on interior surface, is spray directly to the towel. Okay. Don't spray the area, just so you don't want to cause too much overspray.
Some detailing swabs. This is super techy.
They're nothing crazy, you don't need any sort of training to use them. But it's just great for doing air vents, buttons, stuff like that a cloth will just kind of saturate and kind of muddy over.
Absolutely.
People just think I'm a heavy-handed machine polisher.
Nice.
So like our waxes, less really is more. So kind of put the pad on the balm like that, just kind of prime the pad, and then kind of just don't give yourself too much to do, just kind of start feeding the leather.
So what's this going to do? Give it a light clean, but also really protect it at the same time?
Yeah, and it's like moisturising the skin, it's going to make it feel a lot softer, take that kind of dry edge off the leather. Okay. Like I say, you can see it's starting to fade out some of the lighter cracks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Oh, no way. Look at that. That's ridiculous. That is filthy. That's crazy. And that's just the leather cleaner on its own. Just come kind of this side of the mic and it should be able to pick you up. You don't have to stand that close, but it'll pick you up.
Right in your ear.
Amazing. Stop.
Alright, so as you can see, everything was pretty cruddy. I don't know, just one trip to town to get groceries and stopping to grab lunch can cause quite a mess, and especially if they want to bring along any little gadgets and toys and things like that. My face as I was editing this, I could see was getting like redder and redder and redder throughout doing this because it got so hot. I should have gotten up earlier in the morning to do it, but it had to be done before we headed out for our trip. So I just dug in and got started. So I cleaned out the center console, the glove compartment, just kind of like making sure there wasn't junk or just pens all over the place or whatnot, things that needed to go back into the house because we didn't want to take anything extra with us than what we had to. And then I just started with my vacuum cleaner. That is my best friend when it comes to cleaning the car out. And I pulled the mats out. I didn't film me doing it, but I did take them in the house and scrub them with a scrub brush in our laundry room sink just to get them really clean, and you know, if there had ever been any spills in the last little while, just making sure that it was all cleaned out and not sticky or like food stuck to anything. I love that about having mats in the car. At some point I would love to get the rubber mats because I do feel like they are a lot easier to clean than the cloth or the carpeted ones. But yeah, so I pulled all of those out and vacuumed underneath of them. By the way, I will admit that this vacuum cleaner is pretty bomb. If I can find it on Amazon, I will, if you want a corded vacuum cleaner. And in fact, this thing we've had for quite a few years. And if at the time when it broke, I just did not call Shark. It's a Shark vacuum cleaner. But I could have, and it would have been in warranty. I just ended up getting a cordless because there was a great deal and whatnot. So, but I would highly suggest this one. It has amazing suction. The brush roll stopped working for some reason at one point. And Shark also has really good customer service. So that's why I highly recommend going with them. And after about 10 years of doing housekeeping for other people, I have found that Shark is the best vacuum cleaner that I've ever used out of all of the different ones, even Dyson. I personally feel like they really beat Dyson. So I got cleaning the back floor here and realized that I needed to move the seats forward because there was so much stuff underneath of the seats, and I'm so glad I did and didn't realize it. And then, later on our trip, something rolled underneath of one of the seats and, had a really big mess under there. So I moved them forward when I was doing the back part, and then I moved them back when I was doing the front part, and just to get every little crevice and area that I could. We live on a dirt lane or a gravel lane, and so there's so much dirt and stones that get in the bottom of our car constantly, just from our shoes and climbing in and out. So that is something that I have to keep up with, vacuuming this a lot. Next, I got a bucket of water. I don't even know if you guys can see it in this video, but I just filled my spin bucket up with water, and then I think I used a Caldrea cleaner just because it had a really good smell, and obviously I wanted the car to smell good. So I just made up soapy water with a rag. It's just better. I do better with this than having a spray bottle, because I feel like sometimes a spray bottle, especially when it's hot out, the spray dries really fast, and so you have these spray marks all over your dash, and it doesn't really get everything super clean. So hot water and soap of some kind. I sometimes will even put dish soap in, just because dish soap cuts grease, and so if you have anything in your car that's oily or greasy, it wipes up really easily with dish soap. Another thing I was doing is washing the car door part, like you can see there on the bottom. It's the same paint as the exterior, but when you go through a car wash, or even just use the handheld car wash, you can't really spray it out. So I was washing that down as well. So just making sure that we got all of the cracks and crannies, everything washed up.
So if we take a look at the interior of the car, we can tell that it's in pretty decent condition, physically, but it's quite dirty. So you can see that the seats, they're quite dirty. The floor mats, the carpets are not exactly clean. Everything could basically do with the detail. You can take a look at the inside of in here. Doesn't quite look so good. And the same thing can be said for the rear of the car. So if you come in here, it looks like there have been kids or something back here, because this is quite neglected. So what I'm first going to do to address all of this and restore this and bring it back to life is first remove as much as I can.
By carefully lifting up each one of the floor mats and removing them from the car, you can see how much dirt we removed without even having to use the vacuum. So take all of them out, set them aside, and you'll be exposing what's left inside the car.
So with the floor mats removed from the car, it'll give us a better idea as to basically what we're working with. So you can see that we could definitely use a vacuum, and that is going to actually remove most of the stuff that we have found on top of all the surfaces. So I'm going to vacuum not only all the carpets or the floors, but I'm also going to do the same thing to the seats, to the cup holder areas, and any other part of the car that has dirt. So you can see that the vacuum will indeed be able to pick up all the stuff that you see here on the seat. Now, any of the stains, they won't be able to come out from using just the vacuum, but it will do a good enough job to take care of it and at least clean it up. And the same thing goes for the carpets down there.
So with the vacuum turned on, we're going to begin by first removing all the stuff that's found on the ground. So as you can tell, we did have a carpet or a floor mat down on here before, but as you can see, there's still stuff around the outside perimeter of it that didn't necessarily get caught by the floor mat. So once you use this vacuum, you'll be able to pick all of that stuff up. So whether it be rocks, branches, dirt, whatever it is, we'll be able to remove all of it. So you're going to want to do a pretty thorough job, and by cleaning all this stuff up, you're basically going to be removing all the stuff that's on top of the carpet so that we can go ahead and clean the stuff that's embedded in the fibers of the carpet. You're going to want to do the exact same steps to every other part of the vehicle. So you can repeat this for the carpets in the rear. You can repeat this same procedure to the leather seats, and the leather seats have a little bit of dirt that'll be found in between each parts of the leather. So in the little creases, you're going to want to push the vacuum down into the crack of the leather, so it's going to remove all the dirt that's found in between there. If you have any large pieces of dirt, junk, wrappers, or whatever, you want to remove all of that stuff before you start vacuuming. But it's pretty crazy what you can do with a simple vacuum. Now, even if you just go ahead and vacuum your car, it's going to look a lot better, but we can go a lot further than that by detailing everything. So in the trunk of this Audi, you can see that the person before me probably used this to go to the beach or something like that, because there's a lot of sand that's found in the back of the trunk. And I don't exactly need that inside the car. So by using this vacuum, you'll be able to remove all of that. So after you're done with the vacuuming stage, if you have any salt spots on the carpet, you're going to want to address those now. I'm using a 50-50 mix of water and vinegar. I'm spraying it down on the entire salted areas, and I'm going to agitate it using a bristle brush. If the areas that you're working with are really covered in salt, it wouldn't be a half bad idea letting the water and the vinegar just sit there and really penetrate itself into the salt. After that, you're going to grab your bristle brush to agitate and break down all these pieces of salt that are still clinging and hung onto each one of the fibers of the fabric. What I like doing afterwards to get rid of the vinegar smell is use a vacuum to try to suck up as much of the solution as possible. If it's really bad, you can hit it again, but that's basically my approach to removing these salt stains.
The two main ones that I think that you guys will definitely be using is this one right here. This is a Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner, and then I also have this product here, which is a Meguiar's super degreaser. Now, both of these are super important when you're cleaning out your car. You can use this. To begin, spray the degreaser on the panel you're working with, along with inside the bristles of your detailing brush. You want the degreaser to remove the grime, but you need the brush to spread it into the material so it can restore it to a clean condition. I like using small circular motions to keep the bristles as close to perpendicular as possible when I'm detailing. I find that using it this way is extremely effective, and it gets the job done very fast. If you're working with a panel that has a gap or cracks that the cleaner can get into, I like using a vacuum to extract all of the cleaner that's on the panel, because it ensures that nothing gets left behind. Depending on the area that you're working with, you'll want to have a variety of different brushes to get the job done. Sometimes it makes sense to use a large brush on larger areas such as seats or even the door panel, but it's always nice to have smaller brushes to clean up more intricate areas that have dirt in them. You're going to want to do the same circular motions as before to keep the bristles as perpendicular as possible. If you don't have a vacuum at home to use, you can also use terry cloths to remove any excess dirt or any degreaser solution that's left on the panel. I find it quite satisfying when I use a white cloth to pick up dirt, because you can really see how much grime is being lifted from the panel. You don't get the same visual representation of what's being lifted when you use a vacuum, but you for sure can see a huge difference from before and after once the panel's cleaned. You can replicate the same cleaning procedure with the super degreaser to clean these leather seats. You can really see that in this before and after shot of the rear seats of this Audi. I use 3 different products: the Meguiar Super Degreaser, a bristle brush, and a little bit of elbow grease to clean them up. Just like the plastic and vinyl door panel, you can just spray it on the panel, use the brush to agitate the dirt and lift it, and then follow it up with either a vacuum or a terry cloth, and then you're done.
If your seats are quite neglected, you may have to repeat this procedure a few more times to bring them back to life. You can use the degreaser on plastics, rubbers, vinyls, leather, and even paint, and it's 100% safe, it will not discolor anything, and it works like a charm. So to clean up the carpet and any kind of fabric, it's pretty much the same procedure as cleaning up leather, but instead of using the Meguiar Super Degreaser, I'm gonna be using the all-purpose cleaner. So you're gonna need a new rag, you're gonna need the same little brushes that we were using before. You're gonna grab the APC and you're gonna spray this on basically the entire carpet. You're gonna have it like this so the product is just sitting on top of there, and then you're gonna scrub this and rub it in. Pull all of that dirt and the cleaning solution out of the fibers. Now you can use a vacuum at this stage to extract that stuff out, but I find it doesn't quite do as good of a job as using a clean terry cloth. Once it starts to become brown or discolored, you're gonna wanna put that aside and you're gonna wanna grab a new one to start to clean up more of the fabric. So with the headliner, as I mentioned earlier, you wanna be careful with it and you don't wanna put too much water into here. So if you have a steam cleaner to clean all this stuff up, that will be ideal. But if you don't have it, you can get by using the all-purpose cleaner, a paintbrush, or a detailing brush, and a rag. So let's say we wanna tackle this stain right here, or even this one, it doesn't really matter. What we're gonna first do is put a little bit of the product into our brush, a tiny bit onto here, and then you're just gonna wanna work it in a little bit. Now it doesn't need to be completely saturated, it doesn't need to be dripping wet, you just wanna get it so that it's somewhat wet and the cleaner can do a little bit of work. Now once you have it at that stage, grab your towel, and you can see it's clean. Now this will dry up, if you leave it outside, it will dry up eventually, but you can go ahead and tackle any dirt that you have on here by doing that exact same procedure. And you can tell, well, I can tell, I don't know if you guys can tell from the lighting, but there is the dirt that was transferred onto here, so that means the dirt is coming off of here and being put onto the rag. So that means the dirt is coming out. So just repeat this procedure until your entire headliner is clean. Now to clean the steering wheel of its filth, it depends on what the composition's made of. So this here is made out of leather. So what I'm gonna be using is the Meguiar Super Degreaser. If this was made out of a cloth or an Alcantara, I wouldn't be using this product here. Instead, I'd be using the all-purpose cleaner along with a little detailing brush like this to get in there, to get into the little pores in between each one of the fibers, and it'll clean out the fabric that way. But because this isn't made out of that material, I won't need this. Instead, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be putting a little bit of the Super Degreaser in a straight line on a rag. I'm then gonna fold it around the steering wheel like this and just rub it until it's clean. Just like that. Now, it's not gonna be super noticeable when you're working with a steering wheel that's of this color, but if you're working with an even lighter colored steering wheel, you'll be able to see any dirt that you have that's basically impregnated into the leather itself. So an area like this that your hands are on all the time, this is going to be super dirty, same with this, along with the backside here, because that's where your fingers go. So these areas here are gonna be the heavier, dirtier areas that you need to focus on, but if you just spray it on like that in a straight line, you go over the whole wheel, on the back side, the front side, and even the airbag, you'll be able to clean this up and make it look new. Now, if you can tell in here, I've got the emblem. To clean out the dust and dirt that's in there, I'm gonna put a little bit of the Super Degreaser inside the brush and clean it out like that. So because the rag won't be able to get into each one of those little cracks because it's not really super fine, that's what this is there for. So it'll be able to clean all this stuff out. And because we're using the brush again, I like cleaning this up with my vacuum. And then just give it one final wipe down, and then that looks so good. So just repeat this procedure until your steering wheel or any other leather or fabric looks really nice, and then at that point we'll be able to move on to the most important part of the interior detail. So to get started, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my microfiber towel, I'm gonna fold it into 4, so here's folded into 2, and then divide that by 2 again, so you've got a nice little square like this. I'm then gonna grab my cleaning solution, spray it onto the towel and not onto the windshield. I'm gonna place it in my right hand, put my left hand on the driver's seat, spin this upside down, and I'm gonna clean up the entire windshield like this. Now you're gonna wanna go left and right, and then up and down, and you're really gonna wanna make sure that you get everything cleaned. So once you do a nice big wipe down, you clean up the whole thing, it's very important to follow it up with another wipe down. So can you see that filth? I'm gonna do it again. Same towel, spray onto the rag, right hand, go like this, and clean up the entire thing. So I like going left and right, and then up and down to make sure I have absolutely everything. And then I like to make sure that I get all the corners good, so I'll do the perimeter of the window. So after that's done, I'm not gonna be using this towel anymore. So I can put that aside, and I'm gonna grab another clean microfiber towel. There's no product on here, no nothing. I'm then gonna go ahead and just wipe it down with this towel. So this is going to remove any of those streak marks, any kind of residue, any dirt that's left over that we missed, and it should be able to give us a nice crystal clear windshield. The interior detailed, it should look something like this. So the carpets have been cleaned, the leather's been cleaned, the steering wheel's been cleaned, everything on the dash has been cleaned. All the dirt and the coffee stains that were found in the center console area are now removed, and the interior is looking amazing. The next step that you guys can do is put a layer of protection on your car. So if you're working with leather or you're working with the fabric, you guys can put some sort of protection on there to keep the finish looking this good.
Back of this car made quite a mess of the rear seats, as you guys can tell from the stains, but we're gonna be able to get them all out with the tips and tricks that I'm gonna share with you guys as well. I also wanna thank Mobile Tech RX for sponsoring this video, helping make this channel possible, and we'll get into all the details later on what that app is about.
As you guys can see from these before shots, the seats are dirty. These ones are definitely filthy, and the black light only shows organic matter, so you're talking any bodily fluids, milk, proteins, any sort of thing like that that comes from an animal definitely shows up underneath the black light. And to be honest, I've never seen anybody using a black light in a detailing video on YouTube. So I'm excited to show you guys something different, something really cool, and it definitely is going to look awesome at the very end because I'm going to show you the black light after all the extraction to see how good of a job we truly did. First order of business as usual is to get the front and the rear seats out for this job because these rear seats are definitely going to be some fun extraction. A little bit of vacuuming here will definitely clean this area up. So for me, I like to always start vacuuming first because the first thing I always like to do after is start the extraction process. So that way I have adequate time for the carpets to dry before I return it back to the customer the next day. Doing the extraction up front, I feel the process is much more efficient. And if you guys have never seen this little red tool that I'm using, it's called a lily brush. I sell them on my website, foxclean.com, and I'll have that linked below if you want to check it out. Not only can you use it on the carpets and the seats inside your car, but on any sort of fabric or your clothes. It does a really good job at getting dog hair off of every surface I've tried. And I'm trying to put these before and after shots of each little section to show you, and the driver's side shows it the most. Is before vacuuming, it actually doesn't look too bad, but as soon as the vacuuming's done and it pulls off some of the darker dirt off the top surface, you can see how much more of that tan brown dirt is covering that black carpet that we're going to be pulling out with the extractor. The drill brush on the surface without doing any extraction, majority of the stains are already not showing up any longer. But to be honest, once it would dry, they would come back up to the surface anyways. So with the extractor, you can see that even half of the seat looks 10 times better than the remainder of the seat. So with a second pass, these seats will look like brand new again. So just after one pass, the black light isn't picking up nearly as much stuff as it was before. There's still a little bit remaining. So the second pass using the Chemical Guy shampoo should get all of it out and also make the seats smell 10 times better. Now for this rear bench, I'm going to be saturating the seats quite a bit more than I did the top seats, and that's because if these stains are so embedded into the carpet that the owner was able to have them come to the surface after getting them a little bit wet, we need to make sure that we get the stains that are deeper down out of the seat itself so that way it doesn't come up again. The seat was where majority of the stains were popping up with the black light. So this was the one that needed the most attention whatsoever. So started off with the Chemical Guys All Clean, which is just an all-purpose cleaner because it's more of a grease fighting agent. And I wanted to try to see how well it did with the first pass with the drill brush at getting a lot of these stains out. One thing I wanted to mention is all the products that I use are safe on car fabrics, but a lot of times when I see some of these cars, I like to try different products or different processes because you never know what is going to be better at different things, and I'm still learning personally, and that way you guys can see what works for me, and hopefully you guys can apply it as well to your cars. Now with the seats out of the way, we're going to go straight into cleaning up the driver's side floor carpet area. And I'm going to be spraying my Chemical Guys Carpet Cleaner shampoo onto this carpet first, letting it sit for approximately 10 to 15 minutes after I've agitated with my drill brush before I extract with just using hot water in my I mentioned earlier that the owner is in the process of getting new floor mats, but one thing I want to stress for you guys watching this video is if you don't have floor mats in your car, if they're worn out, if there's holes in them, I highly recommend picking up a set because it can save your carpet from getting nasty like some of the details you see in my videos, and it can save them from getting ripped or torn and just making a mess in your car. So rubber floor mats are definitely the way to go, especially even if you live in southern states. It just makes it that much easier to just dump it out, spray it off with a hose, and throw it. The cleaner directly into the bristles for the first pass, and if that's not enough, sometimes I'll just spray the surface directly, but typically by soaking the fibers in the brush itself, that's enough fluid to get the whole complete dashboard clean. One tip when you clean your car is make sure you move your steering wheel in and out, up and down, whatever direction, because if you don't, you're going to miss a lot of area behind there that a lot of dirt likes to collect. And the same goes for the shifter. Put your key in your car, put your foot on the brake, and move the shifter all the way back to the lowest gear possible, and clean on the inside of the shifter area, which is typically missed when you're doing your car detail when the car's in park. Definitely top notch at getting all of those different states out. So I want you guys to make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on notifications to join the Stauffer Garage crew. Every Saturday morning we have a new video come out, and it's awesome hanging out with you guys that first hour, commenting, answering any of your questions you guys might have in the comments below. So thank you guys so much for watching.